Okay, so I have one die, and what I can do here is print one die dot get face value. Right, so print the face value so far, something like that, and I'll be just printing numbers. So I'm not going to be printing those numbers on a new line. I'll just use print statement, which does not automatically append a new line to each piece of the output to the console device. So I'll just use print, not print line, but print. And so that should be printing those things. Once I'm done, I can actually print a new line. Right? So once I'm done, officially this is a print function. So I'll use print line at the end, and that should do the trick. So the hope is that this sort will do something meaningful. By the way, I never compiled this program, so maybe it's time to try, right? Try to build this program and see how much problems will be as a result of that. So I'll just go to my project view and right-click and say clean and build. So the first time it's loading some of the dynamic pieces, and it takes a little longer. So it gets built, and if we run it, strangely, there is class cast exception, which tells us that the die object, let me increase the size of this display, okay, so you can see what error is basically tells us that the die, which is part of this package, cannot be cast to Java lang comparable. So there is a little piece missing in our arrangement of things, is that at runtime, when the actual sort is attempted, apparently the implementation of the sort algorithm is expecting that the die class is sortable, but more specifically, what it tells us, it needs to be comparable. What does it all mean? Well, I would say that I would strongly recommend all of you guys go here, go to your favorite search engine and say Java comparable interface tutorial. It's already prompting. It's popular, so Google knows about this type of search. On Oracle website, there is collections and interfaces tutorial. It's the first choice here, and I would recommend that you read this material. It's very good reading, strongly recommended reading. Object ordering, that's what we were talking about. And it does introduce something that we'll call comparable. Now, first of all, the comparable interface comes from the util, Java util package. So I'll do that first. I'll do this first. My job right now is to modify the die class to make it, conformant with the standard expected by the sort mechanism. Because I don't want to be writing my own sort mechanism. I would like to provide a class so that anyone can take it, and I can just say it in my documentation that you can sort this, the instances of objects of this class, and everybody should be happy about that. And it kind of makes sense to be able to sort dice, sort them out. So all right, so the piece that is missing here is, we're going to say implements comparable, right? Implements comparable. Now, for the comparable to become available, we need to import you know, import comparable from here. But again, let's see if we can say fix imports. Hmm. So comparable is found here. Well, let's see. Um, comparable. So far, all right. Let me just try it out the way it is. Here's an interesting element of this. Let me show you this part in our presentation. We'll come back to binary search discussion in a second. I'm just trying to find the comparable interface. So the definition of the interface named comparable is very simple. It expects that every object that supports this particular interface will be uh, uh, providing a public method which is called compare to. And this method compare to should be returning -1 if one object is less than the other, 0 if the two objects are equal, or +1, +1, if one object is greater than the other. Okay, so let's try this. Shut down what I don't need. This is the right syntax. Let me check it one more time. Comparable to. All right. So let's take the signature of this method apparently from here. Public in compare to. And let's talk about this. So the expectation is that to make our objects sortable or orderable, we have to make them comparable. Comparable is an interface which is defined by Java library, and the way it looks like is comparable interface, and it declares a method. Now the method is expecting an object to be the parameter. Question? Okay. So we have to provide this method in our class die, because by saying implements, we're making a promise that we will implement everything that this interface supposed to offer to whoever wants to use our class. Now, this is a very simple example of an interface. It offers only one method, and it's called compare to. All right? And this method will compare objects. So first of all, in Java, all objects, and I'll call this another, right? So I have one object and I have another object. In Java, all classes derive from an object class. So when we create a die, it implicitly and originally derived from an object class interface. When we start talking about the hierarchy of objects, we will discuss this in great detail. But for now, let me just tell you that what's possible. What's possible is that you can take any object in Java and pass it as a parameter of type object. All right, I will demonstrate this in the code in a few seconds. So, but then what is advisable is that we can say if if not object um, instance of die, then we can handle this as an error. This is an error. We should not be expecting other than die classes to be passed to compare to. So this is kind of very typical situation that people are expecting sometimes to compare. I mistyped this. This should be saying another. Okay. Next thing that I'm going to do, so here I will simply just return, for now I will ignore it and return, I don't know, -1. So the next thing that I'm going to say is that if this if this if this face value is less than another object face value, oh, and first of all, I need to sort of cast. One second. Let me do this. Die. Another die equals die. After checking that they gave me another die and making sure that it's another die, then I can cast another which is of type object to the type named die. This is the cast operator. Basically, I will say that now that I know that another is a die, I will cast it to the die type and store it as another die. Now it's time to save this piece.